Picture this. You got past the emotional hurdle of listing your home for sale. Then you busted your tail to ensure that it looks great when it hits the market. Then you successfully negotiated a fabulous offer and you are in contract. What happens next? Well, I call them the big three. The three things that we need to accomplish in order for a successful closing. The first is the inspection period. The second, we need the buyer's lender to issue a final loan commitment. Third, you as the seller need to issue to the buyer what we call a free and marketable title. What is a free and marketable title? Well, I'm here at PM Title at their gorgeous office here in historic Old Dublin. I'm gonna meet with Brent Saunders and Daniela Adams of the PM Title team to discuss what the role of a title company is, why it's so important, what they do, and how you will work with them throughout the deal. Let's take a spin inside. All right, so we're here at PM Title, here in one of their beautiful offices in historic Dublin. Before we get into the nitty-gritty about clear and marketable title, why it's so important for you to know about that and during this process, I want to introduce you to Brent Saunders and Daniela Adams on the team here. Brent, tell us about PM Title and the role you play here within the team.
So PM Title has been in existence for just over 5 years now. Started as a small title company on Washington Courthouse and working with a lot of agricultural business and farmers. So back then, farmers were, hey, I need to be in the field, so you need to come to me. So PM Title adopted this 24/7 business model where we close anytime, anywhere. We've literally closed every day of the year except for Christmas, and that's just because nobody's wanted to close on Christmas yet, so hopefully you can bring us a deal. So we're named the fastest growing title company in Ohio since 2015. We now have 7 total offices, and last year we drove over 25,000 miles to go to our customers to close at their offices. So I am the business development manager for PM Title, and one of the big roles and responsibilities for me is finding creative ways to make it an experience and not a transaction. So we want your customers to walk away going, wow, that was incredible. I'm so happy with that.
And they have, because when I got my license here in Ohio, the title company I originally liked using, who are still, they're great folks, they were not you. Right? And you guys kind of won me over because of the testimonials that my clients gave about your business and your colleagues and their services during the process. You know, whether it was meeting a client at 8 p.m. after she put her kids to bed in Clintonville to ensure that her paperwork was signed correctly, or meeting another set of clients at 5 p.m. on Saturday when the wife got up from working a midnight shift. You know, that means a lot. And another thing that I love about working with you guys is just the super competent people that you have doing the specific jobs that they are tasked with within. Obviously, they handle a lot more than the jobs that they're tasked with, which is another reason why I like working with you guys. But just the competency of the folks, and especially the fact that when we get to a closing table, the person that is there from PM Title is extremely knowledgeable about the documents that they are giving to the buyers and to the sellers for signature. Mm-hmm. I've been to closings where there's just a notary sitting at the table. Absolutely. And they can't explain any of the documents that the folks are signing.
Yeah, so absolutely. That was one of the things that we changed right after I started at PM Title, because we used to use contract closers and notaries, but we realized that they weren't making an experience. It was a transaction to them. They just wanted to get in and get out. They were showing up late or rushing somebody through and not taking the time to treat that like the most important transaction of that person's life. So we eliminated that. Now, almost every single employee in our company is a fully trained closer and understands that this is a huge purchase for your customer, and to make sure to take the time and energy to explain everything to them and treat it like it was their own family member.
Yeah, and just going back to the competency of all the folks that I've worked with at your company, one person that my clients work with, not on a daily basis, once the title company is in place, but definitely on a weekly basis, sometimes daily basis, is Daniela Adams. Daniela, thanks so much for chatting with us today. Daniela, tell us about, when would a seller interact with you during the deal process?
We interact with the seller, I would say, if you send us the preliminary title email, we automatically could reach out to the seller and begin our process then.
And just to interject here real quick, one of the things that I do when my clients are listing a home, the second that they sign the listing agreement, one thing I do is send over to Daniela a document that allows her to start working on the title and digging into the title. And that's a lot of your role here at PM Title, is to ensure that that title is given free and clearly to the buyer at closing. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that on a day-to-day basis, and what got you into doing that here at PM Title in the first place.
Okay. Well, there's a lot going on there. So, yeah, you did. You loaded it up. So 99% of the time, we are connecting with the seller as soon as we get the contract and the seller information.
Contract meaning the purchase contract.
The purchase contract.
Once the buyer
that
and
is
seller
correct.
sign the deal,
Right.
if you will.
Correct. What we're sending to them is an email with our seller information documents attached. And what that is it's telling them who we are. We're PM Title. We'll be facilitating your closing. Attached are a few forms for you to complete and return to us.
When you say facilitate the closing, what we're talking about, right, is basically, hey, PM Title, is their job is to abide by the laws of the state of Ohio, the county in which the closing is occurring, where the property is located, right?
Right.
But they're basically just going through that document, and anything related to title and to disbursement of funds, that is your baby, right?
Right.
And your job is to do that under accordance to the law and to the purchase contract, correct?
That is correct, yes. So when the seller gets the forms, they will fill out the forms. And what those forms are asking is, do you have a mortgage on the property? Do you have an HOA on the property? And an HOA is a homeowners association. So very common in Franklin County and surrounding. And then we also are asking, how would they like their funds after closing?
So if I'm going to get a check at closing, right? Sometimes it's not a physical check. You're saying it could be wired?
It could be wired,
Okay.
yes. And we like to wire proceeds
Yeah.
because you will get those proceeds within 24 hours after closing. Whereas if we hand you a check for $35,000, typically 99.9% of banks will place a hold on those funds.
Right.
So that's what we do. We send the seller forms, they attach, fill out, complete, send them back to us. Now let's go back to the preliminary title search. So
The document that my clients sign after the listing agreement is signed, and then I send that document to your team. What do you do once you receive that document, and why is it so important during the process of the deal?
So preliminary title, what we do is we have our abstractors go and research the property, is what I'd like to say, to make sure that there are no liens or judgments. Are there mortgages on the property, HOAs, delinquent taxes? That's what that is. So we can catch that up front, because as of right now, mortgages, we're a third party ordering
Right.
a payoff.
You're working on anybody's behalf. You're just for the good of the deal.
Right,
Right?
that is correct, yes. So we're ordering a payoff. Sometimes there's judgments or liens with the IRS. Currently, the IRS is approximately 65 to 75 days behind getting us payoffs. The Attorney General with tax liens, they are about 2 weeks behind. So
My brain, what I'm hearing as you're talking about this is, don't wait to the last minute to send documents to the title company, because if there's an issue, that could be a delay of the closing date, correct?
that is right, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's very important that we get those seller forms back immediately
Okay.
so that we can order those items.
One question I have for you guys, for both of you, is let's say a legal issue comes up during the deal, right? Or there's a question that we need to ask somebody who is a licensed attorney in the state of Ohio. Do you have somebody on your team that can handle that? And if so, who is that, and how are they involved, if they do get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to joke and say I'm the beauty of the company, not the brains of the company. But so we do have some big brains, and Daniela obviously is one, and then we also have a co-owner that is an attorney, Mark Miller.
Okay.
So Mark Miller has been in the industry for about 18 years. He was previously head legal counsel at Advantage Bank. So all he has done for the past 18 years is real estate law, and that's very specific. So sometimes people think that they can just go to any attorney and that that they'll know what's going on.
And technically they could, I guess.
But real estate law is extremely complicated. The actual contract that the Columbus Board of Realtors uses is sponsored by the Columbus Bar Association. So it's very specific, and it's always changing. So we want to make sure that an actual real estate attorney can actually handle it, and that's all Mark does all day, every day. So we've got an attorney on staff that can help anytime, day or night.
That's great. And another thing about, you said day and night. Yes. Literally, you guys are available all the time. I've texted both of you at weird hours of the week, and you've both gotten back to me rather quickly, which just kind of blows me away because I'm not even that good. I think I'm pretty good. I'm not that good.
I try to do like a 1-minute response.
So we're in the summer of 2019, right? What are you guys seeing on a day-to-day basis that is blowing deals up, if you will? Or what are things that maybe consumers might not realize that could cause a problem, whether they're the buyer or the seller in a transaction, and things that they might be able to take care of now to kind of stave that off?
A few things that we're seeing right now is a lot of divorces.
Okay.
And the thing is that in the state of Ohio, we have the dower law. And if you are legally married, your spouse is required to be at closing.
What if I'm separated?
You're not legally divorced.
Okay.
So even if you're separated.
What if I'm just upset with my spouse?
Your spouse will be at closing. Yeah. So we're seeing that right now often is that, I've been separated for 5 years. Okay, well, you need to call her or him and tell them to attend closing because you're not legally divorced.
You say attend closing, that just means sign the closing documents.
That is correct.
You don't have to be in the same room.
You do not.
We will split the closing.
We will split the
do
closing.
different Absolutely.
Okay, for the good of the deal, of course.
Well, and actually, to touch on that as well, so I bought my house 9 years ago, but I only got married 2 years ago. So it doesn't matter that.
But the home is only in your name on the auditor's site.
Does not matter. We are married, so I cannot sell that property without my wife signing off on that. So I think that's another big misconception that people have is, well, I bought my house before we got married. Doesn't matter. Once you get married, that spouse has a 33% interest in that property, and it escalates up to 50% over time as they own it. So doesn't matter if you're not on the deed in the beginning when you bought it. Once you're married, you have a legal right to that property and need to be at closing.
One thing that comes up as it relates to that in my world is, let's say I'm working with you as a seller, right? I'm your listing agent. I send you the listing documents. I send them to you and your spouse. You ask me, well, why does my spouse, I bought this condo 9 years ago when I was a single guy loving life, right? Why does my spouse need to be on the listing paperwork? Well, they might not technically need to. Maybe Mark could answer that question, but I always like to put them on there just so that starts a great communication process going forward, and it implies that both of those individuals are equally responsible to take this to closing.
Right, and it lets us know that they're married.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's important to us. So right, and it lets us know that they're married.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's important to us. So
Daniela, what if a property or home is owned by technically an LLC? Who signs off on the paperwork for that sale?
it would be the members of the LLC.
Per the operating agreement of that
Correct,
LLC?
yes.
Okay,
Dower
great.
law does not come into play with an LLC.
Okay, great. What else are you seeing in the title world that maybe consumers might want to know about right now?
Okay. Another thing is let's say you have a mortgage on your property, and at one time you went delinquent in your mortgage. Well, your lender mortgage company wanted to save your property for you so that it didn't go through foreclosure, so you didn't lose your home. You did a loan modification. You actually are signing paperwork stating that you will pay back that money if you ever sell your property. And what they do is they roll those delinquent payments over into a second mortgage and they place it on the property. That is paid off at the time of closing. A lot of customers are saying, well, I don't make payments on that. No, you do not, because it's interest free, but it is attached to the property. So a lot of people forget about that because they're not making payments on it. So that can kill a deal in a minute, because they're not calculating that when they're speaking to you regarding a net to seller that we will do. They're just looking at, I only have one mortgage on the property.
And one thing that's nice in working with you is when I sit down with a prospective seller, it's pretty easy for an agent to come up with what we call a comparative market analysis. It's basically, say, a document that's super fancy with a lot of data in it. It says, hey, here's what your home's probably worth right now. Now, you can go on a home value site online. A lot of people can, check this information out. But one thing they don't know is, okay, but after I sell it and after all the taxes and the fees and the commissions and the mortgage balances are paid off, what am I going to be left with? So one thing that I like to do with you guys early on is use your website and chat with Daniela if I have any questions as it relates to usually property taxes. Is, okay, here are all the fees, and we put that into what's called a net to seller sheet. And that's usually something I add to the very end of that document that I give the sellers, which is super helpful. And this says, hey, this is your walking around money after closing, is how I like to put it. So is there anything else that you guys would like to say to my audience, to my prospective clients or folks that you will be working with in the future?
I would just say that when we do contact the seller and send out our seller information forms, that it's very critical and important that we get those back as soon as possible, because if there are liens and judgments, multiple mortgages that need to be paid off, we have to order those, and they do take time to get.
Yeah.
So it's very critical in the process to get those items.
Yeah, so get things done early, clear, great, honest communication. And for those sellers and buyers to know that their communications with you is confidential, and only disclose if required by Ohio law.
Right.
Correct. And that's one thing that I like to get across when I'm meeting with clients is I have a fiduciary obligation to you. I can't lie, cheat, or steal to the public, but I have to be confidential with the information you're sharing with me, and so do the folks that I'm working with. And that's another reason why I love working with you and your team, because one thing about my business and the folks that I surround myself, I want to make sure that they agree that ethics is paramount. And the folks that I've worked with here at PM Title are some of the most ethical, trustworthy people that I've met in the title business. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me, for my clients, and I look forward to working with you a lot more in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Cool.
We do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Wow. I'm sure your head is spinning with all the great information that was shared in my discussion with Daniela and Brent. If you'd like to learn more about PM Title, go to their website, pm-title.com. That's pm-title.com. And we look forward to working with you in the future.